All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Guys Talking Sports. It's just me, Kyle. Today, Steven unfortunately couldn't be here. As y'all see during the preseason for football leading up to the regular season starting, Steven's always done a good job of interviewing our area coaches, kind of getting some intel and feedback from them about their upcoming season. Y'all have kind of seen us hint at it during the season, this past football season, trying to do a little bit more this year. We are joined today with the head baseball coach of Lancaster High School, Mr. Will Selmer. One of the reasons why I wanted to get him on the episode or the podcast or the show this year is I think it's important to highlight people that are from our area that are still coaching in high school sports. We went to high school together. He, like I said, he's the coach at Lancaster High School. This is his 10th year at Lancaster, 5th year as the head coach. He plays, or they play in probably one of the toughest regions in 4A. But Coach, thank you for joining us. Last season, did make it to the playoffs.
We did.
It wasn't, the season you wanted it to be. Finished 10-17. Yeah. Lost in the first round to Lugoff and May River. Just kind of talk to us about last season, kind of how you approached it at the end of the season, kind of what you thought about it.
The season was overall, when we look at what we've done the past couple of years, it was successful.
Yeah.
10-17, not a great record. It's not what we were shooting for, but making the playoffs and playing really good competition, Lugoff and May River, and getting to see our guys compete there at the end of the season the way they did and fight really hard towards the end. It was overall a good experience, and we got a lot of young players that are coming back. That playoff experience last year was really good for. They learned a lot.
Yeah,
they got to see senior teammates cry when they lost in the playoffs and see what that hurt feels like. And hopefully the guys we got coming back this year will be able to build off of that.
Yeah.
And actually, we've got a really talented roster. So hopefully in a really difficult region, they'll be able to build off that and have it even more successful.
Because y'all have the defending state champions is in y'all's region, correct?
Yeah, Catawba Ridge, they're really good. I mean, last year, it's not many times, high school team in baseball, you on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3-game matchup, because we play series in our region, you get 3 D1 commits back to back to back. We got a North Carolina commit, a College of Charleston commit, and the guy now that's at South Carolina back to back to back. That's what you see in our region, and it's tough, but our guys are up to it. They like the competition, and it's a lot of fun.
This is one thing that's always like how you approach being a head coach, and maybe the message you deliver to your team, like when they're facing, because it seems like, and we even talked about this during football season. There's a lot of talent and big schools in York County, and I know sometimes these bigger schools, prep schools, whatever you want, charter schools, will sometimes poach players from, the schools that are – it's kind of like what you see in the transfer portal where these teams aren't as good or big, get poached by these bigger schools. Is that something you have to deal with?
It's definitely something we have to deal with. I mean, at Lancaster, we've got some really good ball players, and we've got some that, right now in our senior class, we've got 3 kids committed to go play college ball. I got a sophomore that's committed to go play at Carolina. We've got other guys on our roster that are going to play college baseball. So there's always someone looking to try to come in, especially with charter schools and private schools. There's someone looking. And as much as people don't like to say it, there's people putting words in people's ear, and that happens. But I think the biggest way for any high school coach to combat that is the only thing you can do is control yourself.
Yeah.
And you promote a family-oriented atmosphere, and you show that you care about your players. And when when your players know you love them and that you're doing right by them, you don't have as many problems with that. We've been very fortunate to not be poached of a bunch of our players or anything like that in this new day and age in high school sports. We've been very fortunate, but also like we have very good relationships with those
I do want to highlight some of the players because for people who don't know, he's one of my best friends growing up. So I do follow Lancaster baseball specifically, but do follow Lancaster sports. It does seem that y'all are out in the community a lot. And I don't know if this was something that was your idea, but y'all do put on the alumni game every year. Y'all just went through your second annual one. So kind of talk to us, what is your ultimate goal with putting that on? Is that something to kind of give back to the players that went to Lancaster? Is it almost like a fundraiser for your team?
You know, we do. It does raise money for the baseball team to an extent, but it's not our biggest fundraiser. It really and truly it's to show our love and respect for the history of Lancaster baseball.
Yeah.
You know, in the late 80s, early 90s, Lancaster baseball won a couple state championships and we're constantly right there at the state, championship level. And, you as a player, and I know that how special that is.
Yeah.
That's something that, when I come back to Dillon, I think a lot about. You were able to go by places and see your name on the wall.
I still haven't seen it out there, even though I didn't play I didn't play like you did.
It is one of those things where, when I come home, it is as silly as it seems. It's really cool to be able to show, hey, there's Dad's name on the wall at Dick's or at the county fields and at the high school field. There's Dad's name.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And so, these players that we bring back for this alumni game, they played. So I mean, we got first round draft picks that playing that, Mark Anthony and
Stephen Neff went to Carolina.
Stephen hasn't come. Stephen has. Yeah, Stephen Neff
was
big time. Stephen Neff was Gatorade Player of the Year, and he stays in contact and he continues to support the program from afar. And you got Earl Cunningham. There's so many names I could give.
Yeah,
but you got these first round draft picks. And they come back and they play. Some of these guys are in their 50s.
Yeah,
they're still hitting balls in the road.
Don't pull a hammy. Don't pull a hammy.
That's what we're worried about. But it's really cool to have those guys back, and then my players see them, the community see them. I just want the community to know we haven't forgotten what Lancaster baseball is and what it's about, and make those guys just understand that we while I'm there, we really appreciate all they've done, and we want to highlight that.
Now, is that something? And I will ask this: were y'all as involved with the community before you became head coach, or is it something that's you've kind of taken it upon yourself to kind of integrate everybody with the community?
Our coaches, the coaches I worked for, Coach Taylor and even Coach Hammond, Coach Steve Williams, who is still there in the community and helps me a lot. He's like a mentor to me. He's been like a father figure to me in that area of the state, but they have all poured in community-wise to the program. So, I take no credit for the community effort. A lot of the things that we've done have really come from ideas that they've poured into me. And things that just when times are good or bad, they pick up the phone, they call me, they ask me how things are going, they give me ideas. And really with the alumni game and the other community efforts that we do, it really has come from them pouring into me, and then me being able to do that.
Yeah, I remember I went to a game. It was a couple years ago. I think it was a Friday night. Y'all played
South Point.
I was in awe of y'all's field house. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, our field house has come a long ways. When we took over the program, the field house was kind of the field house was built in dedication to Matt Blackwell. Matt Blackwell, he died in a car accident, unfortunately. I think he was a freshman in high school that year. We got a locker that is dedicated to Matt, and we turn the light on every night we play in dedication of Matt and his family. And his family's been great to me as well. The Blackwell family is tremendous. But one of the biggest things I wanted to do whenever I became the head coach was try to just restore everything in that field house, because I knew what it meant to so many people. If you go through their lockers, there's a plaque for all the people that donated that field house.
Yeah.
So every year my players, the ones that have been long enough, like a kid like Parker McGee, who's been with me since the 7th grade.
Yeah.
They hear the story every year, but it still is very important. Yeah. They understand that this place was built off of blood, sweat, tears, and also a kid's life lost.
Yeah.
And that field house looks great now. And we had, luckily, some community supporters that through our fundraisers and through other means, they poured into getting it restored. And it looks really good now.
Yeah, and I think whenever, especially kids seeing that, okay, our school has our back. You know, they're investing time and money to give us all these good resources. Because especially around here, it's most sports that get all the love to me is football, which is, you know, football is supreme in most sports.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, at least us being from Dillon, I think that's awesome that y'all have that facility, because I mean that is something that just the baseball players can call home. That's you know, even if it's raining, they have somewhere to go if you can't practice on the field that day. So yeah, I know that's a big thing to have. I do want to shout out some players. I know you didn't mention any by name, but I do just want to, because these are ones that are committed. You got Tony Shannon. Kind of tell us a little bit about him. I know he's a senior for you.
Tony's a phenomenal player and person. The big thing is person. His family's phenomenal. I mean, the other day at work, like I'm sitting there and I got a Christmas gift on my desk, and it's because the Shannons have sent something to the high school. And they're just super supportive. They love all the kids, and that's the kind of kid Tony is. He's our captain this year. He'll steer the ship for us. He's committed to Florence Darlington Tech. He had several high-level JUCO offers. He's a great player and a great teammate, and he's probably one of the best I've gotten to coach in my 10 years of coaching. He's great.
Yeah. And then now, what position does he play?
He's our shortstop, and he'll pitch. He runs it up mid-80s.
I'm pretty sure he started at shortstop the game I went to.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, he's smooth as butter at shortstop.
Yeah.
Like that's you know, even the pro scouts that we've had through Diamond Prospects have come and seen him play.
Yeah.
The thing that they rave about is his defense. He can play. He can play the position really well, and he can swing the bat too. He's batted over 300 every year since his sophomore year. So he's a great one.
He just seems like a good athlete. And like,
he's phenomenal.
The thing is, you may not be excellent at one position, but you're a good enough athlete to make it look easy.
He makes a lot of what he does look easy, and it's not. But he does a great job.
And Florence Darlington's one of the top
JUCOs in the nation.
It's still hard for me to think they're a JUCO. Just because they're right down the road.
Yeah, they are, and they're really good. And they're, you know, Coach McDonald does a good job at Florence Darlington, and Tony's in good hands, and he feels good about that decision, and I'm excited for him after this year.
And then next we've got Jeremy Dawkins, committed to UNC Lancaster, so not going too far from home. Tell us a little bit about him.
He'll play his home games where he played his high school games.
Yeah,
So
I think
he's not far from home at all. We've got some guys there. You know, we've got Ron Robinson, who's going to Coker next year. He plays at USCL this year, and we got some other guys like Buddy Howard that's at USCL, and Coach Calhoun does a really good job there. I love Coach Calhoun. We have a good relationship, and Jeremy he's prototypical what you'd want as a first baseman or an outfielder. He plays both for us, but he's righty thrower, lefty swinger, and he's got a sweet and smooth swing from the left side of the plate, and another good kid from a good family. And I know I say that a lot, but I think that's why we've been able to kind of build Lancaster baseball back to what we think it should be, is because we've got a lot of good families and good kids. He's a great kid, and USCL's got a good one in him.
Is it easier, I guess, as like a head coach for you to kind of pitch your players to USC Lancaster just because they're in your backyard?
Not really. And I mean that in a good way. Coach Calhoun is very particular in what he wants.
Yeah.
And my relationship with him, like it is with any other college coach, is like, Coach, I will not suggest someone if I don't think they can do it.
Yeah.
And he respects me in that, and I respect him in his opinion. And that's how we work. We work just like, I mean, we see each other a lot more, but we work in a sense of, I trust him and he trusts me, because like, I'm not going to send him somebody I don't think can do it. And he's going to only take people that he believes can do it at that level. It's a great relationship. And it's just, I think it's one that you have to have with any coach that, at the next level, if you're really trying to promote your kids and get them to college and you believe they can do it, you've got to have that true relationship. There's been plenty of players that I didn't suggest, unfortunately, because from what I saw, I didn't know that they could cut that level. And baseball maybe had run its course for them. But Coach Calhoun's great. And I wouldn't say it's easier for me. I think that he he does a really good job of recruiting the area in general. And so he's going to have really good guys. And for my guys, I want them to go and play. And that might not be the case at USCL because Coach Kellen does a great job.
Yeah. And then, excuse me, the last senior that I saw that was committed was Landon Carter. It seems to be he's the most recent.
He is.
Commit. Kind of tell us he's going to Caldwell Community College.
Yeah.
Now, where exactly is that at?
Caldwell's in North Carolina.
Okay.
It's only about a hour and a half, 2 hour ride for him. It's just a funny story. But he actually ran into the head coach while he was on vacation.
Nice.
At the beach. Great. He's a great baseball player, and even more so, he's a great teammate. Landon joined our baseball program last year, and he is just everything you could ask for in a baseball player. He played, he's primarily a second baseman, third baseman, but he played first base.
Yeah.
He's a pitcher as well. He caught games. He played the outfield. He did everything.
Yeah.
And that was as a junior. And as a senior, he's the same way. He's like, Coach, I'll do whatever you need me to do.
Yeah.
He's just a bowler. He's a baseball player.
Yeah.
And he met the coach at the beach, stayed in contact with him, went up for a visit, got in front of the coach. Coaching staff liked him, and he committed to Caldwell. Felt it was a great opportunity for him. I feel like it's a really good opportunity for him. He's a great kid, and I keep saying that, but he's just a phenomenal kid, and he's going to go in and work really hard. And then outside of Landon, I mean, Eli Sestar is the only other senior I can think of right now that he's gonna he wants to, and he will. He's got some college interest right now, and he'll probably he'll figure that out over the next couple of months. But he's another one of those. I keep repeating myself, but just good kid.
Yeah,
good kid, good family.
And I feel like if you want to play collegiate sports, I feel like baseball is probably not. I won't say the easiest, but you have a lot of opportunities to go play because there's so many JUCO level teams,
right?
Or maybe even if it's at the D2, D3 level, there's still a ton of opportunities for players that play baseball to go play at the collegiate level if they want to proceed with their with their playing career. And then last one, you mentioned him earlier, didn't mention by name, but Parker McGee. He's been committed to Carolina for quite some time now.
Yeah, he committed at the beginning of last year as a freshman. He's going to his sophomore season. He was an all-region player last year. He's already on the I had a pro scout recently tell us that some schools will have to make a decision in the future about his position. He's a shortstop. I mean, he can swing it. He can play the position really well. He also throws 80 plus off the mound already.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal person and worker. And one thing that people even like in our community won't ever see probably with Parker is how hard he works.
Yeah.
Like, you get to coach guys. I've coached guys for 10 years. We've had D1 commits. We've had, guys go play at the next level. I can't really name a guy who works harder than Parker.
Yeah.
Like his work ethic is just through the roof. And it's almost to the point where you're like, my goodness, dude. Like, and it's all on him. Like he wants to do that. Yeah. And it's special when I get to show up at the ballpark and watch that each day. And that's a lot of fun to be his coach. He's committed to Carolina right now. And I believe wholeheartedly there's not another player in his class that's working any harder than he is.
Yeah, so. His mom's pretty good at playlists.
his mom is great at the playlist. God, she plays great music. I know the players don't appreciate her enough.
I think that's what stood out to me the most. The game I went to.
Yeah,
I think I talked to you about it. I was like, bro, she played some bangers.
Her music's phenomenal.
Played hit after hit.
She's great.
When she put on Coulter Wall, I was like, wow. I never would have in a million years would have thought this artist would be played at a high school baseball game.
And she's phenomenal. She's great. But on top of just doing the music and stuff, like she's just a big supporter of the kids in general.
Yeah,
like she loves them, and that's what's special about a family like that. You've got a son who's a great ball player, and you're just trying. I mean, all they do is they try to pour into all the kids. Like his dad is one of my assistant coaches, and that's not out of like him wanting to do that. It's out of him like he wants to help all the kids of Lancaster. He's a JV coach too. Like he's not one of the coaches for his games. Like he's pouring in to all of our kids. So the McGee family's great, and they're great with music for sure.
Yeah, that's one thing that stood out to me. Like I said, and I will kind of give you the platform to kind of talk some more about your players that we haven't mentioned. I definitely there's more than just four players on a team, but just kind of give you the platform, talk about your team, kind of how excited you are about the season coming up because it's starting soon.
January 2nd, we're on the field. I mean, I can't wait for January 2nd, and they're excited too. And we've got a good senior class of kids that are really leading right now, and they're pouring in. They're doing everything they're supposed to in the weight room, and they're lifting, and they're encouraging each other. They're not satisfied with where they were last year. Like last year at the end of the year, you take a long – I love Miss Mood at Lancaster. She gave us a charter bus down to May River. That was the longest ride of my life and the longest ride back. It's down at the border of South Carolina and Georgia, like down at the coast, like past Charleston. Like it's right there on the tip.
And that's a hike from where you're
at. Oh, gosh. It was about a 4.5 hour ride.
Yeah.
And the guys, I mean, that when we played that game, they jumped out to a 7-0 lead. We just played bad. Like we played like we had just got off the bus, and before you knew it, you looked up to 7-3. You're right in the ball game, and we just couldn't chip away enough. They didn't score another run after the first couple innings.
Yeah.
And so that team returns a lot of players, and they return a lot of people who were sitting there and thinking about what they wanted out of this year. So I'm excited for it. We play a lot of good competition. We'll start off the year in the Comporium tournament, and we'll face Andrew Jackson, who they were the runners-ups in the 2A state championship last year, and we'll get to play them first night of the season, and we'll play a lot of good competition moving forward. And we're excited about it. We play a very difficult schedule, but what we've been able to do is kind of preach to our guys how fortunate they are to play the schedule they play.
Yeah,
and they're excited. They're going to be ready to go come time to play.
Do you like, because this is different than when we played? Do you like it's almost like a series each week?
I do. Now, competitively speaking, like a school that is not as high up on the 4A level, like population wise.
Yeah.
Like we're not. It can be tough because you got to find 3 pitchers, and you got to have guys ready to start. You got to manage your bullpen, and I like that. I like being able, like, as a coach, like I enjoy managing the game. From our players' perspective, I could see where it could be kind of tough, and it's wearing, it's taxing. I mean, you got to think about it. Like in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, there's a lot of weeks where you're on a bus 2 nights out the week, and you got a day in between for practice, and it's just it gets very taxing. But I do like the setup. It's not perfect, but I like it. Okay,
and talk to us about because I feel like one thing, especially in high school baseball, the assistant coaches really don't get I won't say shine, but you don't hear too much about assistant coaches. So kind of, tell us who your assistant coaches are, kind of the roles they play.
Josh Lowe is he's my varsity assistant, and I wouldn't be able to do much of anything without Josh. Josh has been at Lancaster since I got at Lancaster. We came in the very first year, and both of us came in as unpaid assistants that first year, and both worked at the varsity level. And Josh is phenomenal. Josh builds a great relationship with the kids, and they love him. And I think what's really special is you have to have coaches that you've got to play your role, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, some days I'm going to be the one that they look at, and they're like, I hate you today.
Yeah.
But they might go to Josh, and Josh is able to kind of just get into what they're dealing with that day, or get into what they're struggling with that day, and make that connection. Josh has a great relationship with the kids. Coach Brian Sestars, our new JV head coach, but I've known him for years, and he's coached for, oh my gosh, he's coached for decades in Lancaster County. He knows the kids well. He knows the area well. He knows what they deal with, and he has already, like, even since the fall, just made a huge impact on the kids' lives. Coach Brad McGee, who I mentioned earlier, Brad is a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Which is great. Like, Brad keeps me in line. Like if I'm slacking on something and I miss something, Brad's the person to let me know. And Brad also he's on top of practice plans and what's something new we can do to help solve our issues.
Yeah.
And then Coach Raul Garcia Moore, he's our pitching coach. He's been my pitching coach. I coached him. That's how old I am now.
Yeah.
But I coached him as a player.
We're not that old.
I feel old. I coached him as a player, and he's been my pitching coach for several years now. And he's another one that just does a really good job of building relationships. His pitchers know him, and he knows his pitchers, and they get along great. And catchers as well. Yeah. I know that's one. I think that's something that sort of goes by the wayside is the catching. But like our pitching coach knows our catchers well, and he can report things back to me, and he can make comments to them that helps him like work with each pitcher. Yeah. And I know from us when we're old school baseball guys when we watch baseball, but you remember having the pitcher who would have a special catcher, like Eddie Perez for the Braves was a guy like that.
There was it's Tim Wakefield.
Yeah.
Who was
he had a catcher.
He had a catcher because I remember I heard a story.
Tried to catch his knuckleball.
Yeah, but they had a catcher and he wasn't on the team anymore.
Right.
And I remember they traded for him specifically to get him back for Wakefield.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the catcher's name is.
Catchers are so important. And our pitching coach, luckily, is really good with building a relationship both ways.
Yeah.
And so he has a good idea of how people are handling him and what they look like in the pen compared to on the mound. And, Raul's great. And we got a couple other guys, Brian Clyburn and Michael Cato. This will be their first year helping us. But they'll be on staff helping out in a voluntary role. And we're very excited.
Good. Nice. And then last thing before we we're going to talk some college sports. But one thing I see a lot that you post is about like these showcases and I wouldn't say off-season camps, but kind of talk about how important it is for now. Is it players that you may have that don't play football or not dual sport athletes that just play just baseball? Talk about how important those showcases are, especially because I know they're usually at Winthrop.
Yeah, so we play in the Diamond Prospects League, which has been great. It's a fall league, and it's completely separate from the high school. Like it's not high school related at all. Like I can only have a certain amount of my players even on my roster and all that. But it's been great, and we've got a scout that is over the league in Rock Hill. His name's Gary Randall, and he's phenomenal. He's 70 years old, and he looks much more healthy than I do. Or like the dude is just like he's killing it.
Yeah.
But he's great, and he has been a big promoter of our kids. And so it's only a six game schedule, and we play it each fall. And he sets it up, and we go and we take our teams out there. It's not about winning; it's about just getting better, and competing. And so everybody plays. You get everybody in free subs, all that, and it's phenomenal. And I would say from that standpoint, like when you do things like that, like these kids they're building, repetition and skill, and actually being in a competitive setting, and not worried about necessarily a scoreboard, but just doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And then showcases and things like that. My kids, I have a lot of kids that go do showcase ball, and they do these showcases maybe at any college, Winthrop, South Carolina, Clemson, College of Charleston Southern. I'm just trying to think. We've had a lot of kids go. Gardner Webb does a good one. Yeah. So we've had a lot of kids that go do that, and that's great. But I would suggest that any kid that's doing, a showcase for a college, like it be a college that is actually like an attainable goal and something you're interested in, not just do them.
Yeah.
That's been the biggest thing I have to try to stress to my kids is like, you don't go show up at every showcase and just do them because they're offered. Like, you get letter in the mail all the time for kids. Oh, here's a showcase.
Yeah.
And, they got to make money to pay their, fourth assistant, because now they're paying the third finally. Yeah. But it becomes kind of one of those situations where you have to have conversations with your players about what they're participating in.
Now, is that will colleges use that as like a recruiting opportunity?
Yeah, Now I will say this: some colleges though will use as so if they really want you there, sometimes they'll give you a discount to come. And I have to have those kind of conversations with kids too. Like if the school really wants you there, they're they might contact you to get you there. It's a great recruiting opportunity for
you saying this just probably sent in my mind. Has NIL affected like it? I know it's not such a big deal maybe with these smaller colleges, but is that like conversations you have to have with your players?
Now you're going to have to start. Like, this is the first time in my coaching career, and like, again, I've been coaching for 10 years, and this is my 5th as head coach, but this is the first time I've really had to even think about that, like, as something we've got to go and we got to sit down and we got to actually discuss. And our coaching staff's talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
We're already kicking the, ball around about it. And I can tell you even too, like, especially like, I'm a baseball coach, in the big scheme of things. You think about the football coaches and, I know for a fact football coaches are already having to kick around like, what's going to happen when this – it starts to trickle down.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? And so that's a conversation definitely being had, but where do you go with it? I'm not sure.
Because I feel like I don't know. Like, I try to put myself in like the shoes of the player. And, it's especially for Parker that is going to Carolina. I'm sure that is something that will be discussed because they have a bigger fund than, a JUCO or like, even a smaller college. Like, I don't know. I feel like I would kind of get big headed a little bit with it.
Yeah. I think that one of the key things is like for, especially like a kid like Parker, it's very fortunate for me to have a kid of Parker's mindset because Parker has wanted really badly to work really hard to make something happen where he's at. And in this day of sports, like you don't see that a whole lot. You see people like running to make something happen somewhere else or going to better opportunities.
Yeah.
That's just not who he is. So for him, luckily, NIL and conversation hasn't really impacted him. He's been very like, but that comes from family. His family is very centered and grounded, and that conversation is going to have to be had, obviously. But he's done he's kind of, his family is cut from an older cloth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
They really want their son to, make it himself and also make his own path. And he likes that too. Yeah. And that's why Carolina, if a school, he's committed to Carolina, that's why Carolina should be very excited about what they're getting in him as a person. Because if he's committed to you, he's committed. And he wants to do his thing there. Yeah. And that's just who Parker is.
Good.
Now kids coming out of high school can get drafted directly into
Correct.
Major League
Yes.
High school. How would the NIL affect that compared to kids being drafted, at a lower draft going into a minor league area?
Oh, that's that. I mean, with the NIL, that definitely impacts the MLB draft for sure. I mean, there's some kids that based on like, y'all have a good idea. Like, there are college baseball towns. Like, there are places that really are all about college baseball. Like, even I know South Carolina, we love our football, but like it gets crazy during college baseball season too. And when you've got these NILs that are willing to offer out hundreds of thousands of dollars even sometimes, like, that's going to have a big impact on the playing field of who's willing to go into the draft and who's willing just to go to college. I think you're going to have some top guys, some really good players that opt to go to college just because of some doubts about where they're going to be drafted, where they're going to go. That's going to be interesting to watch. It's a phenomenal question because I think that you will have some guys that choose to go the NIL route instead of being at like a late round draft pick for sure. There's no guarantee there when you're at the end of it's like, I'll go play at college and I'll make some money off my name, image, likeness, and then I'll be drafted again. So for sure.
And honestly, it's kind of what you're seeing in football where they'll make more money being in college because even if you're a first round pick in the MLB draft, like, you get a big signing bonus, but your salary's still not that much.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like below minimum wage.
Right.
So it's like, I think you'll see it because it used to be a huge rarity when a high school kid got drafted in the first round out of high school, they went pro. Right. It was very rare if they went into college. I know I can't remember who the pitcher was. It honestly may have been Hudson Waldrop. That's now with the Braves organization.
For Florida?
Yeah. And it was like a big deal that he actually went to Florida instead of going pro because he was drafted in the first round.
He's
It's just
like 100.
yeah. But it's like but I think it won't be a rarity as much now with the NIL because, these trust with these schools can say, hey, listen, we'll give you this to come. And by the time it's time to go back into the draft, you're a little bit older, you've got money. Because like I said, some of these guys may get a huge signing bonus, but they're still making less than $30,000 a year.
Right.
And there's no guarantee you're going to make it to the MLB.
No, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of and this is just, I'm going to blacklist myself by saying this, but I think the NCAA has done a real injustice in not regulating this a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot for teenage kids to have to make these types of decisions. And, I'm not saying the structure was perfect before, but it's definitely not better now.
Yeah.
And what gets lost in all of this is the kid that makes a really bad decision because of dollar signs in that moment.
Yeah.
And, and then when you ask a question about it coming down to my level, then that's where I'm really offended because it's like, when I have my kids from 7th grade till they're seniors in high school.
Yeah.
And so I've got these kids for 6 years and you develop a relationship with them and you really love them. Like they become like your own.
Yeah.
And you have these people that don't know them that are twisting and pulling them in all these directions I don't know. There's got to be a lot fixed. But.
Yeah. and we'll kind of feed into, talking some college ball.
Yeah.
But that's one thing me and Steven do talk about on the college show a lot is, and I, like you said, I get why they did it, but I just don't, the way they did it, it's just like free reign, have fun, do what you want, is really affecting, like I said, some of these smaller tier schools that don't have the trust available, like a Florida State or a Miami. They have these rich donors and these, like South Carolina, for example, because we're both Gamecock fans. We didn't have as good a year, but an Oregon can come in and say, listen, we'll give you the same amount of money or, more, and you're going to play on a good football team competing for conference championships, potentially national championship. And I don't know. And like I said, like you said, I think a lot of players have people in their ear that don't have the player's best interest at heart. They just see dollar signs and the grass isn't always green on the other side. Because you may enter and you find out very quickly either A, nobody wants you like you think they do, or B, you're not as valuable as you think you are in terms of what they're going to offer you in NIL.
Yeah, relationships kind of go out the door, really. We always in sports talk about relationships, but with NIL and where it's going, true, genuine relationships between coach and player and players and players, it's kind of getting lost by the wayside. And I think that, and this is going to sound very cliche, but I think there's a lot to just learn about what your life is out of sports.
Yeah.
And you really genuinely, you need those relationships. And it stinks that that's where things are going. I think the NCAA kind of just threw their hands up and said, you know what, y'all have complained for so long, have at it.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
But I just think in the next probably decade, I don't think, at least for football standpoint, I don't think they're going to be part of the NCAA. No. I think these big Power 5 conferences are going to come together and they're just going to start their own thing.
I don't doubt that at all.
I think it would be better in terms of not competitive standpoint, but just kind of they can elect their own commissioner and kind of run it like the NFL. Yeah. I mean, it sucks to say because
Sankey's already kind of he's already hinted at that, and I think that is. I think you're spot on. I think that's where things are going.
Yeah.
Do you see a conflict in the future of high school kids having to compete with transfer portal recruits?
I think right now, I think you already see it. I think that there is a big competitive nature. I mean, it stinks because and now this is a conversation I've had to have with players.
Yeah.
Like a kid I don't want to mention players' names right now, but one of my players he's a true and even scouts will tell you he's a guy who's probably going to play D1 eventually, but D1, Power 5 even possibly, but he's having to look at JUCO D1 because of the fact that the transfer portal is just full of guys that have been doing it for a year or two.
Yeah.
And so, like in high school sports, not just on baseball, I know, I'm talking from a baseball perspective. I know it affects us. And so I can only imagine how it affects college football. Like I follow college football and I watch it, and I think that it has a great impact on that as well. Like these high school, you're seeing some guys who are probably truly like talent-wise out of high school, especially when we all were coming through high school. They were D1 like certified guys, and they're going small D1, they're going D2, they're going JUCO, and it's not because they don't have the talent. It's because the transfer portal is so full of guys that these college coaches, and they can't blame them. They see these guys and they're like, well, they've already proven that they can do it a step higher, and so we're going to take those guys over them. And so I've even had, again, Lancaster High School baseball, we've had to have the conversation with some guys that I think that have great talent and can play at that level, and we've had to say, look, like this is the realm of recruiting and coaching in the present day. And this is what you've got to understand. And luckily, I've got a good enough relationship with my guys that they understand that. Yeah. But this is tough conversations, especially for high school football coaches across the state.
And I think you look at it from this perspective where, like, let's just take South Carolina, for example.
Yeah.
Shane Beamer's just finished his third year here or at Carolina. And you don't have the luxury of having this 5 to 6 year window where you're given the benefit of the doubt with rebuilding a football program, because you have the transfer portal at your disposal. And especially football is different than baseball, because baseball's always had the opportunity to go get players from JUCO. Football, you don't have know, outside of, community colleges, but those players are usually there for a year, but it like college football rosters aren't majority made up of JUCO or like community college, where as baseball that is. Yeah. And I think these coaches look at it from like, okay, I've got this great recruit at a high school. Like, let's just say, for example, Nicholas Harbor came to Carolina this year. As an athlete, he ultimately wanted to play receiver. Yep. And he didn't play it that much in high school. Right. And, Beamer could have, he brought him in, but he could have very well just went like, we'll go get a receiver like we got Juice Wells from James Madison a couple years ago, and he's already ready. You don't have to – I feel like the developmental part of college football is not taking a back seat, but, you don't have to depend on these 18-year-old kids coming in being college ready when you can just go get somebody, because there's thousands of players that enter the portal in college football. Oh, 100%. And I just feel like it's a thing where – I do think the high school recruiting has taken a back seat. Yeah. And it sucks because there's some dang good players. Look at, Josiah Thompson from Dillon. Yeah. I don't think he's going to be a day one starter, because very well could be. He could. But, they also don't have to rush him.
No, if he's got to put some weight on.
If he's not ready, they don't have that pressure of playing him so if he's not ready. And that could be any position. Or any player. So you're looking at it from the receiver position. So we brought up Beamer. What you're more of like a Steven, where you're a glass half empty. I'm more a glass half full. Yeah. Kind of give us your thoughts on this season
for the Gamecocks. Yeah. I think that I'm a big Beamer fan. I think he's done a really good job at building a culture and kind of an identity at Carolina. I think that I saw an article the other day that said one national analyst says he's on the hot seat. And I'm thinking, like, that's crazy.
You could say his name. It's Mark Ryan.
I don't buy that at all. No. Like, Beamer's done, he overachieved his first 2 years. Yeah. If you really look at what he did, his second season especially. And then this past season, he ran into a buzzsaw. He had a tough schedule, lost a game or two that Carolina should have won. The Florida game right there at the end, they blew that game. That one really hurt. You look at the Clemson game, you go back to that game, they could have easily won that game. Yeah. As much as Clemson fans love to bask in, the fact that It was 16-7. It was a bad game. It wasn't a very good game at all.
That was a boy.
And then I watched the Kentucky-Clemson game. That was another bad game. I've seen a lot of bad games.
And I'll preface this by saying we are recording this after the Clemson beat Kentucky.
Yes. Sorry. I did I spoil it?
No.
Okay, good.
This won't come out till after the game, so we're good.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and Clemson, kudos to them. They played a good ball game today. And I think their defense is really good. They had a lot of people. There were some players on that defensive line that were not there today for that game, so they played very well.
They're missing two of their DBs.
Right. They did a good. Kentucky's not a very good football team.
Their offense
Devin
was
Leary's terrible.
Today.
I mean, they had 4 turnovers. It's a bad team.
Yeah.
Carolina beat them, if that means anything to Clemson fans.
Which is surprising.
But I think that Shane's done a really good job. I think that he recruits really well. This recruiting class is good. Mm-hmm. I think that I think top to bottom, I think Spencer Rattler had a great season. I don't know that there's much more that he could have done
to
make this. Yeah, the offensive line is where things had to get better.
Yeah.
Defense wasn't great at times. Your skill positions were honestly pretty good. Even considering running back, like just kind of switched hands a lot. But Mario Anderson, when he's going to Memphis now, but Mario Anderson, while he was there, he was solid. So I give it this season. I know this is going to sound crazy because they didn't make a bowl game. They only won 5 games. Mm-hmm. I give it a C+.
Yeah.
I give it a C+. Yeah. Like it wasn't great, but in all honesty, when I went into it, I thought that 7 to 8 was max.
Yeah.
That was as good as you were going to do.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of how Muschamp started, where he definitely overachieved his first 2 years there. Because I think the second year we won 8 or 9 games. We beat Michigan in a bowl game. Yeah. Was it Outback Bowl?
It was Outback,
or was it Capital One?
It was Outback. Joseph went. Yeah.
Okay.
It was Outback.
And I think expectations. You coaches don't get as big a leash with the portal, because it's easy, like if we're deficient at one position, like running back, we definitely upgraded at the running back position in the portal this year, whereas last year we really helped ourselves with the tight end position through the portal.
Yeah.
And my thing is and I know Steven will agree, is the coaching staff. I don't think changes are coming, because I think it's way too late in the game to make these decisions. But I think Shane Beamer needs to take a step back and realize, or think, what type of head coach do I want to be? How am I going to be remembered? If I'm going to put these guys with me, and I'm going to stake my reputation and my head coaching career on these guys, is it the right decision? I know a lot of people want the running backs position changed, but I kind of give these coaches the benefit of the doubt, because you don't have the luxury of keeping a lot of players, because you may get a 2 4 stars through high school, or heck, even the transfer portal, but they could just decide to up and leave. And that's not always on the coaches for them leaving. It could be money, could be playing time. There's more to these players leaving each year. But he's not on the hot seat, but after year 5, if it's kind of the same, I think he is on the hot seat.
It stinks because the schedule doesn't get any easier for him. I
think it's more manageable next year. It's tough, but it's not like back to back is very tough.
You're going to depend a lot on Lenore Sellers being what you think Lenore Sellers is going to be.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen so far. Like, who knows what's going to happen in transfer portal. I know a lot of people talk about like Robbie Ashford from Auburn.
Yeah.
And, like, some things happening
There's
there.
A guy from UL Lafayette.
I feel like just watching what's happening is like that coaching staff really believes in Lenore Sellers.
Yeah.
And that's great. I think that's a phenomenal and based on what he did this year when he got to play, it's like, why not?
Yeah.
And Beamer made the comment about, these schools or these players come from other schools wanting to guarantee.
Yep.
And I love that he's not doing that, because you do have a great player. I mean, Lenore Sellers probably be a really good football player.
Yeah,
maybe
agree.
I'm wrong, but he looks like a really good one.
Yep.
So why would you guarantee some guy just because he's been at a school longer? Starting job. I don't. Another analyst said, "Oh, Malik Murphy. Duke just got a great QB1." what is the proof that Duke just got a great?
Yeah.
He didn't do great. He's done nothing great. He threw 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Had almost 50% passing percent. Like what is great about Malik Murphy? I mean, he was a great recruit out of high school, but. I mean, I think that Carolina's got a good thing.
Yeah.
It'd be great to bring in some competition for Lenore's.
And I think they will. You'll see a lot more players after their bowl games enter in the portal.
Yeah.
I know there's 2, like you said, the Auburn backup and then the quarterback from UL Lafayette.
Yeah.
And I think that also attests to how highly Beamer thinks of Dante Reno.
Yeah, he thinks a lot of Reno too, yes.
And I think he's going to be dang good. But it's also kind of what we're talking about with the portal. It's like it's okay if these players aren't ready. Don't thrust them in there if they're not ready. But you need like that security blanket with something that's manageable, because when Rattler committed, the QB room was a lot different than what it was now, where it's like we didn't have 2 guys on the current. Well, I guess you could say Dante Reno's on the current roster that have high upside.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic, but I'm also cautious about it because I don't know.
I think the QB room is actually pretty solid. I'm more worried about the offensive line.
I think the offensive line is going to be okay as long as they can stay healthy, because I mean you had players playing in positions that's not their natural position, and hopefully they can stay healthy. You know, we've got 3 big boys coming in with Pringle, Thompson, and Frank.
Yeah.
You know, you got guys coming back. You got Tree that stayed. You know, so they've gotten more experience, growth. You know, put in more time in the weight room, get bigger, more experience. I think they'll be okay as long as they stay healthy.
Yeah, the young guys, the only thing that worries me about them is the fact that their offensive linemen typically take a little bit longer to develop.
Yeah, that's one where you need continuity and experience.
Yeah,
to
that's
be
the only
good.
thing I'm really concerned about. But they've got some, like I said, Beamer's, he's got some good ones coming in.
Yeah. So, and like I said, the schedule next year is still tough, but I think it's more manageable, where like our opening game is not against the North Carolina. It's against I think it's Wofford.
Yeah.
You know, we do have Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, but it's not. I think it's more manageable in the sense of like I don't know. It's more spread out, and it's not. We don't have Tennessee or Georgia. I don't think we have Florida next year either.
I'd have to look. I'm not sure.
So, but yeah, it's. Oh God, Notre Dame's beating Oregon State 40-8 right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So
they're missing old DJ. DJ's not playing tonight for Oregon State.
Yeah, he's probably
they're really missing.
He's going to end up at Florida State. But anyways, we'll Coach Selmer, whatever I can call you. I do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. I know you're in town visiting family for the holiday season. Got a wife at the house with the 3 kids.
3 kids.
I was hoping she was going to join us today, but she said no.
Of course not. She needs a rest.
Yeah. But again, thank you for coming on. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Good luck this season.
Thank you.
I know y'all got, like I said, a tough schedule, but it sounds like y'all have got a great thing going, building there. Got some great ball players. So nothing but the best of luck. And we'll be rooting for you.
Thank you, bud. I appreciate it, and it's my pleasure to be on. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. See y'all.